Hi, ladies. Welcome back to the podcast. On today's show, I have a remarkable human being with us today. Her name is Alicia Neal, and she is a 20-year licensed esthetician. 20 years. That is like a genius in something that people stick with that for a long time. And you can tell if you're watching this on video. If you're not, go to YouTube and check it out because she has the most gorgeous skin ever. So, um, testament to what she does for sure. She is also the creative genius behind a trademarked and patent pending tool called the brow skeleton, which is very interesting. I'm so excited to learn about your journey on that. Alicia is going into all kinds of cool new things. She's got so many things in the pipeline. She is no stranger to endurance. She's ran several marathons. She's heading into her 40s this year. So, welcome to that age group with the rest of us and most of the women that listen to this podcast. She knows how to push the boundaries, and she also knows how to celebrate once she has been out there kicking some ass. So there's so much to this woman. I'm so excited to jump into this. We've already had an incredible conversation before we even hit record here. I'm like, okay, we got to stop talking so we can record this. But there's deep layers to this woman that we're really going to talk about today, and things that she's been through and experiences that a lot of women have been through. Some really vulnerable things too. So be sure to stick through to the end of this. I know it's going to be incredible. We're going to have a great conversation around the topic of forgiveness and what that looks like in our lives as well. So because we're not just our business all the time, we're going to have a very well-rounded conversation today. So Alicia, thank you so much for being here with us on the podcast. Why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of your backstory, who you are as a woman, not just your business, but then why you choose to do what you do every day.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so honored. Happy New Year to everyone who's listening. So a little bit about me. My parents met at a very young age. My dad was in the Navy and my mom, and he's from Ohio. So I kind of come from the East and West Coast. I moved between parents. They let us have the freedom. They divorced very young. So I have lived kind of all throughout the country. I do call Arizona my home. I have graduated high school here in Bullhead City. It's a little armpit town of the border of Nevada and Arizona. And I have been a licensed esthetician, yes, for 20 years. And I was licensed in San Diego, but I moved back to the Valley area in 2007, where I built up my career, but also my community and my friends. And you mentioned running. I started running when I was around 30 years old. I had never been a runner. It always just looked so peaceful. But yeah, I am all about community. I'm all about kind of trailblazing. I'm definitely this has been a new word this season. It's really fun to use. I'm very singular person. Like, I don't mind taking myself to dinner. I don't mind going to the movies by myself. I will go and have a soup pie and meet a random group by myself. And I'm all about putting myself in uncomfortable situations to grow and meet people. So I love the idea. I love supporting women. I love my career. I got into it because I don't know. I think I had acne when I was a kid, and I had tried different dermatologist like prescriptions and stuff like that. But I remember getting a facial and instantly seeing the results, and I thought, well, this is what I'm gonna do. And so I didn't go after it right away, but it wasn't shortly after I moved to a bigger city when someone was like, yeah, I became an esthetician. And then it was downhill from there. And I got linked up with a cosmetic chemist, and I trained in like treating the skin and doing more result oriented type of treatments. And then I have just kind of evolved, and it's a roller coaster of a ride in the beauty industry. A lot of people are getting into it because they think like, oh, I'm going to be so successful overnight, but it has taken me 20 years to have a full calendar. I'm very honored to say that the last 3 years I have finally can say I'm running a 6-figure business. And I am an accomplished, I have won awards. I have been featured in Scottsdale as a trendsetter. I have been in fabulous Arizona. I've been in know women. There's a lot of different platforms that I've been in. So I do have a lot of little accomplishments that I'm very proud of. But I would say I owe a lot of my success to my clients because they trust me and they know the quality of services that I'm bringing. And also, like, I know I have a big community, but I also have a really great small intimate group of girlfriends that I've been friends with for 20 years, and they're like my ride or die. And something like what we're doing today is what the three of us do on a regular basis. We're always sending empowering messages to each other and just encouraging and lifting up, because life is tough and you need women and good friends and support. I don't know if that answered your question about me, but it's kind of all over the place.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. So much goodness inside of there. So much. Oh my gosh. And I can just tell from the times that we have met each other, which was actually at a Women in Business.
Yes,
It was Lori Harder's Girlfriends in Business
yes.
event, that getting out there and getting involved and finding these women to have in your life is so incredibly empowering. I know many times a lot of us look to our partners or our spouses, or we look to girlfriends that we've had for a long time that maybe aren't entrepreneurs, or maybe they're not interested in personal development or different things that we're doing, and we are like, why don't they understand us? Why won't they support me? And it's so incredibly important to find those women. And that's what's been so beautiful about growing this podcast community too, is, oh my gosh, we're almost at 100 episodes here, and I have met the most incredible women through this. So even if you don't have or have been to a community, create one, find one where you can find these women. Some of the greatest people that I share so many business things, like, you cry on the phone to them, like, what the fuck am I going to do now? What am I doing with this? They're not the people that live next door to you. Some of them, like some of my friends, are in Georgia, some of them are in California or on the East Coast. So definitely finding those women is just like such a value add to your life. And I love that you bring that up. I love to just keep drilling that in, because I think a lot of times women are like, well, when I have time, I'll do that. The time is now. You need that now. And you will realize once you have them, like, how the hell did I exist without this group of people?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
So huge. So I would love to learn about, I know that you have created a tool that you have also been able to, it's patent pending. You've got all this cool stuff going on with this. Explain to us what this is exactly, because
So,
I'm fascinating when
yes,
people come up
I
with
would love
stuff.
to. So, brow skeleton came from an idea. So, back in 2020, when we were all kind of recalibrating our lives, I wanted to get back into permanent cosmetics. And that part of the industry had really evolved from when I was trained back in 2005. So it's pigments, the styles, the techniques, the machines, everything has changed. The training, even just the technology, learned the online platform changing, it has evolved. And so I was a little intimidated, and I felt like an old dog learning a new trick. But I was like, this microblading brow game is like making a big comeback, and it wasn't going away. So in 2020, I have a girlfriend in the industry who was training, and so I re-educated myself on microblading and doing brows. And one of the challenges was creating equal stroke patterns on the left and right brow to make the hair that we're tattooing, to make it look like flow, to get that technique to be even on both sides was my biggest challenge. And so I was like, wouldn't it be cool if there was like a stencil that just laid it out? And there's stencils where you have the thing and you powder in your brows and stuff like that. But then I was like, okay, I have a tattoo. Phenomenal tattoo artists use stencils and then they create their magic. So that's essentially what I did. I created brow skeleton. I have they're called the browlets. They have fun names like the sassy ass, the mother fluffer. So all different types of brow, and it literally transfers onto the skin. And a newer artist who's learning and having the same challenge can create equal symmetry of hair strokes on both the left and right brow. And I did get it trademarked. The brow skeleton is a term in the industry that they use, that you kind of create the skeleton of the brow. I couldn't believe that it was even available. The IP to get browskeleton.com, to get the Instagram, to get the trademark. Like, I was like, how has no one like thought of this? So I felt really proud of just be like, this is a really cool fucking name. And then I created the browlets. And this past year, I had the honor of attending a really great conference, and I got to meet one of the biggest manufacturers and educators in the industry, and like got to show her brow skeleton. That a bunch of ideas came from there. And so I did submit a final patent pending, where you can add that process is so insane. I still probably don't even understand it, but that's what you pay a lawyer for. But not only do I have the brows, but I saw that there was a need for not like areola and scalp pigmentation too, because people are getting into this tattoo industry and tattooing people without really any background or licensing or anything, and botching the skin. So these stencils will kind of help with the paramedical field as well. So it was just a tool to help me get from being an okay artist to a really great artist faster, and be able to charge what I should be charging, as so kind of just quickly getting to expert level. And so that's what brow skeleton is. It's really not for the consumer, but it's for anyone who is wanting to become a PMU artist.
That is so cool. I love just hearing how people come up with that. Like, so many times you'll get a great idea and you'll look it up. I've done this before too, even with like names of stuff for like a URL. And you're like, how is this possible that this is still available? Maybe it was meant for you, you know? It's just sitting there waiting for you to pick it up.
And I've been to a lot of shows now where people are like, I've had the same idea. I was like, I know. But all of us have probably had some idea where, and then a week later you see it and you're like, holy crap, like I had the same idea. I don't think any of us is creating anything out of genius. I think we're all very similar and think of the same thing. Like, wouldn't it be great to just have a noodle strainer that hung on the side of the sink so we didn't have to hold it and burn our hands from the steam? Like, there, but then nobody really knows how to create a prototype, what to research, or actually even think about going to do it. So it was really fun, and whatever it becomes, it'll still be something that I created and that I did, and I'll never have to like live the rest of my life with regret with not pursuing it or trying to make it come to life.
Yes, thank you for saying that. And that's why I wanted you to tell your story about that too, is so many women have great ideas. And then you see it somewhere later and you're like, damn it, I thought of that. And now look, someone has come out with this thing, you know? You can have as many great ideas as you want to out there. Execution is everything, you know? People have a whole bunch of the same ideas. It's the person that was brave enough to execute or to move forward with that idea is the one that gets the patent, the one that gets the website, the one that gets the URL handle. So
Exactly.
congratulations to you
So much.
for
Thank
being
you.
brave enough to do that. I think it's so important that we tell those stories and like keep motivating these women to keep creating things like this. There's so much stuff that's beautiful out in the world and people have such great ideas. Just try them. You don't know unless you try. You know, we never know if anything is going to work unless we try. So many people have great business ideas and then they see it come to fruition and they're like, oh, that person actually was brave enough to try. So I love that for you. And going off of that a little bit, we were talking before we hit record on this about New Year, you know, people are setting resolutions, what's going on with this. And you had such a beautiful insight about how you set goals quarterly or even get prepping
Yes.
for it months in advance before before that calendar flips over. Would you mind telling our audience a little bit about what your process is as far as like structuring your year and how you set goals?
I would love to. I think this is so hysterical. And I had one of the best, like, cry laughing conversations with a client the other day, because after Christmas, then you have New Year's, but then you get to the new year, you take all your Christmas stuff down. It's so anticlimactic. And once I took all my Christmas stuff down, I looked at my condo and I was like, wow, I look poor because all the lights and the glitter and all the festive stuff is gone. I was like, this is how I live. Like, this is so basic. So I like ran out and bought 3 more plants. But it is so anticlimactic. And then we have this long list of like, we're gonna do this, and check this off. And like it really is overwhelming. And then 2 weeks in, you mentioned it's quitter's day. It's easy to quit something that's unattainable. So I like to focus on the first part of the year. Like this might sound crazy to some people, but I have the first quarter, the next 3 months of this year planned out. After that, I'm not really sure because things change, life happens. You can't put like, this is what's going to be. Like there are things that are just out of our control. And again, that's just life. But I have a rough idea of how this next quarter is going to go for me. So that's how I like to do it. And one of my busiest times of the year in the industry is November and December. And I am up at the studio early. I'm back late. Like I don't even think I see daylight because it gets so dark early, and I'm running low on fuel with coffee and stuff. So this year I wanted to commit to starting to work out with a personal trainer, but I started 6 weeks ago. I started to get into a habit before the new year so that when I came into the new year, it wasn't such a shock. It wasn't unattainable. It wasn't like, okay, how do I fit this in with all the other stuff that I have to do? Because as an entrepreneur, like I'm already like, I'm getting a new CPA this year. I have to get all these numbers. I want to see where I was 3 years ago, where I'm at today, and where I want to be 3 years from now, because I have some shit that I want to do. And so there's like all of that business part of it, but it's also like mentally I'm really strong, but my body's like, I'm a noodle. You just drove me crazy for like 6 weeks working your ass off. So I try to kind of align things before the year starts that I can go into it like ready and conquer some things. And I have to say, I mean, I'm sitting here on a Friday afternoon talking to you with a glass of champagne, and I'm not worried about one damn thing.
Yes. You know what? Planning, so many people that I talk to when, especially on my team, in my septic business, they're like, I shared my calendar with them this year, and I was like, now you guys know what's going on with stuff. If you find a spot, you need me, plug in a meeting, And they were looking at it and they're like, oh my God, like this is why does your calendar look like this? I'm ridiculously meticulous in color coding and putting stuff together, but it frees me up to be able to do these things like this. I can sit here on Friday afternoon, have wonderful conversations, meeting beautiful women that are kicking ass, doing cool things, and I don't have to worry about a damn thing because I've already taken care of everything else. So when you're saying, like, it might sound crazy that I have my first quarter all planned out, plan those things. You don't have to overload yourself in planning your entire year January 1. And that's what I loved about what we talked about. You're doing it in chunks. This is what I have. This is what I have to look forward to. This is what I'm focused on. Because many times we get out of alignment and out of focus because there's so much shit in front of us that we want to do. If you're an entrepreneur, you're never in a lack of ideas. So many times we bog ourselves down doing those things. So I love that so much. And it's everyone's goal to be able to sit on Friday and have a glass of champagne and not give a damn about it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
On the topic of that too, looking back on 2023, I love to just sit for a day and journal and look at my calendar and just kind of see like where I was at the beginning of that year and kind of where I ended at that year, what my numbers look like with my business, where I spent time with my family, like areas that I want to improve, things that were really great too, not just in constant need of improvement all the time, but like what did I really kick ass at this year that I want to carry forward, or things that I learned this last year that I can bring forward and help other people with? Because I think there's huge like personal fulfillment in being able to help people with the things that were really hard for you at one point, that you can now use that experience to help others. I think many times we're best equipped to help the people that we were previously or problems that we had previously. So when you look at your year 2022, 2023, what are some things that you're really proud of that you were able to accomplish and things that you're looking forward to carrying forward into 2024?
There was a lot. The last 2 years have been kind of this, which we'll get into the story of it, but the last 2 years have been kind of I have been in this, the way I am describing it is this survival mode. I left a situation, and what I'm most proud of is that I know I made the right decision, and things came into my life rewarding me for making that decision, for doing what was best for me. I got a condo. I finalized all my patent stuff. I found a roadmap to my spiritual journey. I really discovered my what I will not tolerate ever again. I really fell in love with who I am and really became unapologetic about it. I have learned to find peace and calmness and not allow anyone else bother that by their fuck ups. We're all human. Nobody's perfect, but there is this safe space that I've created, that is mine, and I don't want anyone to disrupt that in terms of, unless they're going to add value to my life. So I have strengthened my relationship with my family, with my faith, with my friends, and really have settled into this gratitude of what I have versus what I want. And as I've settled into that, all the things that I've thought more than what I could even imagine have been coming to fruition. Being a big player in the Skin Games last year, winning an award for doing what I do, seeing my growth in business here, seeing my clients recognizing that I look happier, I am happier, like you are really doing big things, getting back into running and really aligning my mind and my body and my health and prioritizing my needs. Those are some of the things that I'm really proud of. I put myself in tough rooms and I invested a ton of money into coaching and growing my business, which is really scary because you don't know if you're gonna have a return on your investment. I mean, I will say this, you always get what you put in. But I really was like, I'm just gonna go all in because I'd rather pay off whatever over time, but I can't ever, I don't want to live with the regret of never giving it a shot. And that's kind of like, you can pay things off over the next couple of years, but do you really want to live a life of regret and never even giving it a chance? For me, I don't really like, you only fail at something if you don't learn or grow from it. I don't think like if I do something and it doesn't work out, I don't look at it as a failure. It's like, okay, well, let's see what else we can do and try. Like, I'm a doer. I like to try new things. I'm constantly on the go. My friends think I'm nuts because it's like I have 10 things going at once and they take forever to like work it out, but they're like, can you just do one thing? I'm like, no, I can't do that. Like, I need 10 things to like keep me busy. But I'm also single and have no kids. So, I've gotta keep up with everybody somehow in some way and feel like I'm contributing to society by moving the needle in other areas. So I don't know. But yeah, I have a lot of things that I'm proud of in all aspects, not just career, but personally too.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. And you just share so many good things in there. What a
I guess
beautiful.
I will say I missed a part of it. Going into 2024, like I have really strong boundaries, and with people, and then also like even with my business, I'm allowing myself after 20 years to take Saturdays off, to raise my prices, and to make everything kind of work more for me versus me working for everybody else. So the past 2 years have really gotten me to a good point in this year that I get to not be in survival mode, but to just like settle in and really enjoy and live a little bit more.
Beautiful. And you have, I love what you said just right there. Like you've allowed yourself to do this. I think a lot of times women are like, well, I can't because X, my spouse, my kids, I have this, I have this. And it's not true. All you need to do is give yourself permission to get out of that survival mode and to really figure out how to thrive in your life. Really, really so good. What do you think? I think a lot of women live or have lived. I know I grew up very much and it was like fight or flight all the goddamn time. all the time. It's very hard to get out of that. It really does. It biologically changes you when you are living in that all of the time. And it is a very difficult thing to where if you live that for a long time, to find peace is almost scary. It's like the calmness creates chaos in your mind of thinking, holy fuck, what's going to happen next? Like it's too nice here. It's too quiet here. It's too this, like how did you find a way to get out of that survival mode and really be living in this thriving world that you've created for yourself? What did you have to let go of? What did you have to discover through that process to be able to be comfortable in this beautiful life that you're living now?
I think as human beings, we naturally, I'm going to kind of touch on the subject that's newer to me, that's really pushing me into the new year. I think so. As a marathon runner, there's like 1.1 million people that have run a marathon. And what that alludes to, it's like 0.01% of the population have ran a marathon. So I'm in a really small percentile, but really an awesome fucking percentile too, because people are like, you've ran a marathon? That's awesome. Yeah. And it's a very small percentage. So people, and this is really great because I just did a vision board and really like took on this like negative and positive bias. So 75% of the population will live in this negative mindset, and they're like, I'm not good enough, like I need all this craziness, like this is unhealthy, but you just don't know how to get off the hamster wheel. Well, I've just decided that I'm going to live in this 25% positive group of people. And what it really is, it's emotional intelligence. It's allowing yourself to recognize that if you want to move forward and up in life, yeah, the room's going to get a little bit smaller, but the company's going to be fucking awesome. So fuck these 75% people who are negative haters, like, oh my God, like whatever, and like hating on what you're doing. Like, it's hard. It is a practice. It is hard to get every day to be like, okay, I know what I'm going to do today. I'm going to live today at the highest potential. Like, it's a little 30-second pep talk, but you know what? Like I said before, I'm a singular person. I'm happy. It's my life, and this is how I'm going to do it. So I operate in a 25% emotional intelligent section of which a lot of people don't, and that's where I try to be most of the time. So that's how I'm able to get to, I'm going to allow this calmness. I'm going to go for like a nice walk with my dog and enjoy this crisp, cool air, which is really crisp for Arizona, and just be unbothered. Like, zero fucks given. I'm unbothered. People, we live in a world where we're all broken in some way. And broken people are trying to break other people. And so you just have to like stay in your lane and do you and not be unbothered by it.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Spreading, excuse me, spreading the positivity is in kindness right now is such a huge thing that I even talk about with my children too. I have two teenage daughters, and just talking to them about being kind to people and seeing people, at that age group, the shit that they come home and talk about, I'm like, what is happening to people? Like, where is this coming from? But there's like so many of these little trolls online that are doing all of these things, and so many women that want to go out and create courses, or they want to create educational things for people, and they want to be out there doing and serving so well, but they're so scared about what people are going to say with that stuff. You really have to develop this thick skin of like, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to put it out there, and the people that decide to say shitty things about me, they're not my people, and that's okay. You can't make everybody happy.
Why are we listening to people or even considering the idea of somebody else's negativity when they don't even know us? Who knows where they're even at, or if they're like even real? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like artificial, like it's not even a real intelligence that's insulting you, and you've now like are sad and depressed, and you're like, I'm not going to be successful because so and so number 8215 like said I'm going to fail. Like,
Yeah.
who is that? Why?
Yeah. I think you really have to get inside of yourself. And this is where, like, really focusing on personal development, developing that mindset of, and being in this, if you will, like, weird group of people, like, feel a lot of negative people will look at it and be like, well, who the hell do you think you are? You know, I'm somebody that knows myself. I know what I'm capable of. I know what I bring to the table. And having that confidence not only is incredibly sexy and attractive to people, but it's going
Mhm.
to piss people off. It is, because they wish they could be like that. And I think the more that people can put themselves out there and be like that, what a beautiful testament to how we can grow as people. You know,
Yeah.
it's like all
Yeah.
that COVID shit that happened, and it was like everybody follows everybody doing everything all the time. You're like, why is nobody asking any questions about things? You know,
Mhm.
it's the people that are brave enough to ask questions. It's the people brave enough to step out, put their face on camera. It's weird and awkward for everybody to do that up front, but
Yeah.
really being out there and able to help share our skills, and even this conversation that we're having here on this podcast helps one person. Fan-fucking-tastic. That's the whole point
Yeah.
of this, is to be able to tell real stories that can help
Mhm.
other women that are out there. And I love this so much. I know that when we were talking about jumping on this podcast together, Alicia, that one of the topics that's really near and dear to you and things that you've been able to implement in your life is the topic of forgiveness. Do you want to tell us a
Mhm.
little bit as to why that resonates so much with you and why you've become so interested in that topic and what it's done for you in your life to embrace it?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. So forgiveness is truly a gift that you can give yourself. It opens up new possibilities. It opens up opportunities for new relationships. And for me, freedom, it's a sense of freedom in forgiveness. And I'll make this clear that I am bouncing back from betrayal after an 8-year relationship. And, forgiveness is one of the purest forms of self love that you can do. And being in the industry that I'm in, I'm all about self love, self care, that I had to really check myself and be like, are you living your purest self happiness? Like, are you really over? Like, are you really moving on? Is there a piece of you that's still stuck that isn't allowing you to be in this like whole person that you're meant to be? And so that's why forgiveness has become a really big thing for me. And this year I feel like the walls have really come down and I really do forgive. Um, and like I said, yeah, it's the biggest form of the purest form of self-love. It's this opportunity to be like, boom, I have new boundaries that are set. Let me reintroduce myself. I'm Alicia. I burn bridges as needed. You can no longer hurt me. And there's this really great book that I recently discovered, Scared Contracts. And it's this agreement that your soul makes before you're even born. And this was one small part of my journey that before I really reach my highest potential in my life. So I'm not done. My story is not over. I've not yet fulfilled my divine purpose. And that's why I've really just decided that forgiveness is really the ultimate freedom if you want to live a really great life.
Yes. What do you think forgiveness what did forgiveness look like to you? I think a lot of I ask you this question, I want to follow up with a little bit of context because I hear a lot of women, and we shared a story about this before we hit record, where people say, I am still waiting for an apology for them before I can forgive them. And that person, you made a great point, didn't want to be forgiven. You know, they didn't give a shit.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times we have people in our lives that they don't give a shit, but somehow we're still holding on to this and we can't say, we forgive you. They don't care. It's not affecting them, it's affecting us. So I love what you
Yeah.
say about, the selflessness and that being pure love for yourself to be able to get over that. How did you come to that resolution? Was it an apology you needed in that? Or how did you give yourself the permission, if you will, to just say, I'm good with this and I have forgiven and let it go?
Yeah. I never. was prepared for this shift. I had high hopes that this was my forever. And nobody talks about the grief that comes along with having to stand firm on a decision. Everyone's like, get over it, other fish in the sea, blah, blah, blah. But you will miss them. You'll want to reach out. You'll want closure, but you can't forget the disrespect, the dishonesty, and the unloyalty. And of course that, and in that, that's where the lesson and the growth happens. So you can't dwell on it or let it consume you, because yes, it's easier said than done. I was drowning in a lot of trauma. I had walls up. I questioned everything, and I had to really deep dive into a lot of the things that were swirling around in my head. And at the end of the day, like, you don't forgive that. You forgive them for yourself, not for them. And that they'll probably never ask for it. They'll probably never feel sorry for how they may have really hurt you, or ever see that they really hurt you, because at the end of the day, now they're a victim because you hate them, and they hurt you, you hate them, now they're the victim. So I had to just kind of accept the situation and understand that it's not what happens to me, it's now how I handle it, and I maintain that sense of calmness that I'm in, and that unbothered by other people fuck ups. And there was an interview with Sandra Bullock one time. Her affair was very public in the eye, and she's like, why be angry? Why be bitter when the other person doesn't even care that they hurt you?
Yeah.
Like why? What a waste of time. And yes, sometimes you have to just accept that you will never have the answer to why. And sometimes it's better not to even know, but know that you are strong enough to pick up the pieces and move forward.
Yes, that's beautiful. Forgiveness really is a journey. It is something that you will go through all kinds of emotions before it sits right with you. And I think all women that are listening to this can think back to or remember like the biggest betrayal or the biggest thing that has happened to them, whether it was a big failure they had themselves that they're like even forgiving themselves about, or you've been through a divorce, or you've been in a long relationship. Many times, sometimes people have this with their own families, that they will continue to tolerate shit behaviors because they're part of the family. And you do not
Yeah.
have to do that stuff. You have to really evaluate what is eating at your peace. And when you are angry at someone or bitter towards someone, and putting off that forgiveness piece, it consumes you. Even if you're not thinking about it all the time, it is like that shadow that's over your behaviors, your thoughts, the way you think about new people that come into your life. Many times we've been in relationships and we carry shit forward to the new one. It's not their fucking fault that the last guy was an asshole, but now all of a sudden you think they're the exact same way immediately, because we haven't
Yeah.
dealt with or been able to forgive those behaviors that had happened before. It's not about excusing them, like you had mentioned in some things that we were talking about beforehand, but it's really the acceptance of this happened, and I'm not going to be bitter or angry about it anymore. I let it go. Do you feel like forgiveness is letting it go?
I feel like forgiveness is, I don't think you let it go. You don't want to excuse. If you let it go, then you excuse the person's behavior. And you can't do that, because then if you let it go, then there's a chance of that person being able to affect you in the future. So don't let it go. Remember the dishonesty, the distrust, the unloyalty, whatever it is. Don't let it go, but learn from it. And I chose, I am in power. I chose to forgive and accept this situation and this person from a distance. They will no longer be in my life, but I accept them for who they are and I wish them well, but it's not going to be around me. And that's crazy for me to say because there's 8 years of my life where I was like, how am I going to live without this person? I don't want to ever live without this person. This was my best friend. This was my go-to. This was everybody that I wanted to share every minute of my day with. And to just cut cold turkey, it's almost like cutting a heroin addict, and going sober overnight. It's insane. But there was a moment after 8 years, there was this moment, it clicked, and I finally got gumption, which is my new favorite word. If anybody watches The Holiday, you know what Iris does. Gumption. I finally got the fucking guts to say, this shit is fucked up. This will not be my story. I'm done. And 2 years ago, I was living a happy enough life. Like, what is that happy enough? It's so stupid to me now that I think about it. And today I'm beyond grateful for everyone in my life who has supported me through the past 2 years. I've never known what true happiness is, and it's just an unbothered state of mind. And I am just, leave your baggage at the door and walk through a new one. Because like I mentioned before, that positive intellect, fuck the people that are living in the 75% positivity, the people that are doing you wrong, let them do that to other people and move on, because life is short. There is no time that is promised. And I have dated since, and I have met some incredible men. I have not met my soulmate yet, but I have learned to appreciate people where they're at, and I've learned to really meet them where they're at and also leave them where they're at. And so, that's how I look at forgiveness. It's not about accepting what they've done. It's not poor behavior is never excused, but you can forgive them and gift yourself the shift of moving into a better way in life.
Ugh. Never settle for happy enough is like the biggest thing I just got out of that. Like, how many women just settle for that? Like, I'm happy enough, or like, I have kids, and so this is just my life, and I'm just happy enough, and I'm not doing anything that brings pure joy to me. There was a topic I did on the podcast yesterday that was talking about 3 things that make you feel really alive. And when I was listening to this podcast and they were talking about this, I was like, it kind of made me sad because I sat there for a minute and I'm like, well, my work makes me feel alive. Like, I love talking to women and this makes me feel alive. But if you go to your core and it's not something you're putting out, but like at your core, what makes you feel alive? I'm to sit with that for a while, because I feel like I've been in this happy enough stage for a long time. And it's really got to be a shift that you decide, this, I don't want to just be happy enough. I want to be genuinely happy. And that's going to piss some people off in your life. It is. If you really think about it, it really is. Because what is contributing to the happy enough right now is not good enough to get you to that where you want to be genuinely happy. There's something wrong if you just feel happy. I'm good enough, I'm fine. Like, that's the worst thing you can ever say is I'm fine. You're fine. Then, it's pretty much the same thing as saying I'm happy enough for right now. Don't live there, because living there and accepting that can turn into 10 years and you look back and you're like, what the hell have I done? Because time is the most precious commodity. Like, live that true happiness and being unapologetic about it. It's not your responsibility to make everybody feel amazing all the time, but it is your job to make yourself feel amazing all the time.
And you have to do the work. And when I say that, and you have to do the work in a healthy way, which I feel like I've done. I have gone to counselors. I have seen therapists over, my life. And I had a counselor say, like, I was talking to her about the podcast today and just making sure that I was aligned with what I really wanted to share and what I wanted to get out of it and what did other people get out of it. And she's like, you healed in a really healthy way. I didn't go and buy a new car, go spend a ton of money on outfits, or buy material things to avoid the pain that I was feeling. I really did the work on myself. I built up community. I found faith. I I looked in the mirror too, like, you know, if I can't say that I'm not to blame in some of the fallout of the relationship. You know, there was times in the relationship where I spent a lot of time in that relationship angry because I had to keep healing over and over and over because I kept getting hurt, but being blamed for that. It's my fault that I was being hurt. And so my angry responses was from their poor behavior. So I had to check myself and what role I played in that. Like I let that relationship go on 7.5 years too long. Let me just tell you that. And like so, you know, you have to be honest with your fucking self first because that's, you
Yeah.
know, you have to work on yourself and you have to heal healthy. And you know, there's it is a journey and it's not a destination. And I'm not saying become biblical or anything like that, but there are over 33,000 faiths that you can choose from. But I am a big believer in prayer, and I started praying. And one of the biggest things I got out of that was because I couldn't even pray. Like I couldn't articulate what I wanted. And if you can't articulate what you want, you're not going to get it. And so I was living this life in this nice house on the mountain, a whole walk-in closet, and this whole great lifestyle that, you know, a lot of people kind of stay stuck and happy enough for this society status where, like, guess what, everyone? I may not live in a big house, but I now live on the other side of the fucking mountain, which is even prettier in a smaller condo. I have a beautiful little walk-in closet, and I still have the same lifestyle I did before without the monster in the closet. Let's just say that.
Oh,
So and you know, the universe has your fucking back. When you start making decisions to live your best life, you start getting rewarded. Like I live on a street that's literally in the name is dream. Like I now am living my dream. I got a neighbor right when I moved in who worked with a phenomenal wine company. I would come home the first 3 months of living in my new condo with $100 bottles of wine sitting at my door. Like, tell me, thank you, God. Like, I made the right fucking decision. I was being shown that I made the right decision. You are gonna be okay. Here's your bottle of wine. Cry it out. Get back to work the next day.
yes. Oh, preach. That's the title right there. Fuck happy
I
enough.
mean, it brought tears to my eyes, my friends' eyes. Like, we couldn't believe the things that were just happening in the early quarter, the first quarter. Like and I will say this, you know, New Year's Eve to me is just another day because there's nothing like having something traumatic fall apart and make the hardest decision of your life on like a holiday or something like that. So a new year is a fresh start for me. So that first quarter of that year, which it's now been a couple years. So it has been, we go back to that. It is a journey, not a destination. Like this just not happened 2 weeks ago. This happened two fucking years ago. So that's why I am celebrating on a Friday because I am living my happiest life on my dream of a street in a beautiful condo. And I was gifted a family heirloom. This has no value, but it does in my heart. But this hung in my great grandfather's house. So this has been in our family for a very long time. And my dad gifted it to me. So to have my thriving business, being a first time homeowner and being able to have a piece of my family history hanging is really just kind of where I'm at in the beginning of this year, and just beyond grateful for the life that I am currently living right now.
Well, thank you for being brave enough to take all of those steps and to share your journey with us today because there's so much in this podcast that women can get from this. I got so much out of this. I'm like sitting over here like I gotta do some shit. You know, I got some work to do on my own here too because I find myself in that quite often, you know, like is this
Yeah.
really what I want to be doing? Like, well, I have to, you know, I get stuck in that loop of, well, I have to, or I said I was going to do this, so now I have to. If this shit don't align with you anymore, why are you torturing yourself? Like, you can
Yeah.
always make a different decision. Always. Always,
There's
always,
always
always.
going to be
Never
things,
stop.
that we have to do, and make a list of like the must do's, like the non-negotiables, and then look at the list of I have to do this, but I could also do this. And there's moments when I look at the different experiences that I have in my life, like there's that peace and calmness. I think you asked this earlier, what that feeling alive looks like. It's for me when I'm in a marathon, it's at 13 mile. I'm like, yes, I've made it half through. I haven't died yet. Or like running or hiking the Grand Canyon. There's a moment, it's called the box. And then you're in the middle of the Grand Canyon that you can look up and you feel like just this little speck, this minor thing in the world. And you're in the Grand Canyon, one of the seven wonders of the world. And you're just so immersed in mother nature, and like you have to respect her because she can literally just kill you down there if you allow it and if you're not responsible. But there's a moment of just looking up and being like, wow, I am in the biggest crack of the world that so many people would love to be there. And those are the things that I love. And walking into and traveling and running an international marathon. Like I went to Paris for 3 days and got to run the marathon, and to run through an entire city. Most people go for a week and don't get to see as much as I did. And so it's those little things that make me feel alive. So I continue to make those a priority in my life, whether it's once or twice a year and I do something like that. And I don't have kids, so I know that makes it a lot harder. But one of the women who is a big industry leader in the PMU cosmetics, her little girl came up on stage and she was her mother's biggest cheerleader. And she said, we want you guys to bring us along to work with you. We want to be involved in your lives. We want to see our parents happy. We want to see our parents like living their dream and stuff like that. So I get that kids have their schedules and stuff like that too, but let them know that you're a human as well and that they can get on board and support your dreams as well, even though, it doesn't have to be all about the kids. Jeez, they're so selfish, aren't they?
Yes.
I have three
Bring them
nieces.
along.
I really do love them, but my sister sets boundaries. She's like, hey,
Yeah.
honey, you got the kids tonight. I need to go get my nails done. I need some me time. Like, I have a girls' trip, it's a team. Not
Absolutely. And you have to be like that.
and that not everyone has that luxury, and that is hard, but you're bring your kids along. Like, yes, they'll probably embarrass you and make a fool and make a mess, but allow them to. I feel like I grew up in a situation where like kids are to be seen and not heard, and now I'm very vocal and I ask a lot of questions and I have a lot of pushback, and maybe that's just some trauma from my childhood, but well,
Yeah.
should have listened to
I
me a
think
little bit more when I was 10.
I love that. I was a single mom for a long time with two little babies. And yes, I'm married, but I am still very much a single mom. I am responsible for my children. Their dad's not around whatsoever. I take that very seriously. And I designed a life around where I could bring my kids with me. It's not a big deal.
Mhm.
My kids have grown up in my construction yard. They know stuff. My kids know more about septic systems than most grown adults do. My daughter can look up records online and she can do all this stuff, and she finds houses that are on septic and she tries to help our marketing team. And she's 14. She's been doing this for years beforehand. She loves to be involved. And when you bring kids up in that, what a beautiful opportunity to expand their minds into what can I create? My daughter has a little sugar scrub business already. She's had it for 2 years. It's something that she's put
Yeah.
together. We got her a business coach. She like works with somebody in developing things. What a beautiful gift to give your kids, to bring them along. They don't have to be separate from each other. So I take my kids everywhere with me. When they were babies, they sat in car seats while I got my nails done, because damn it, I need to get my nails done. Just strap them
Yeah, I
down
mean,
somewhere. They'll
life
be fine.
life goes on. Life goes on. My girlfriends in the early beginning, when they had kids, they would never, not that they would never, but their reason was they didn't want to burden me because they're kids. Like, you two are my best friends. Like, your kids are your offsprings. Like, it's not a burden. Like, our tribe just grew, and when it gets too loud or crazy, I'll just leave, and that's the benefit of being like the aunt. But like, kids, I think as we get older, like, keep us humble. Like, I'm a big kid myself. If you don't know me, I'm a big kid myself. I'm very different. I have lots of like personalities, but inside I am a big kid, and I like being around kids because they have crazy ideas and they're innovative, and there's no boundaries, there's no limit to what they can and cannot do. They don't really feel the cold water, which is crazy to me how kids can not be like immune to cold water. But they're fearless in life, and I love being around that energy. And so parents who think your kids are burdens to others, they're not. Like, maybe to some grumpy old people, but not me. I love them. Bring on the chaos.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us
Thank
today and talking about
you.
these very vulnerable topics. More people need to talk about
Thank you
this
so
shit
much.
so that people don't feel alone in this world. We're all here to support each other. And that's why we have this podcast and this community. So, in the end of this podcast, I always ask everybody this question. It is the topic of which I'm forming a book around. And I love hearing how people associate with phrases and what this means to them in their lives. Sometimes the hustle means like I'm a stay-at-home mom and I'm working my ass off and this is my hustle right now. Sometimes you're building a business, sometimes you're doing this. So when you hear the phrase ladies kicking ass, Alicia, what does that mean to you?
Ladies kicking ass. I mean, it can be a lot of things. It can literally be women in fitness, and it can be women in business, and it can be women in court and doing all sorts of things. I think there's so many different types of women that are out in the world kicking ass. For me, one of the ways that I feel like I'm kicking ass is not necessarily questioning the rules, but I'm definitely questioning the fucking people who are making the rules. And that is something that I'm determined to. I work hard. I know what I bring to the table. I pay my taxes and I pay my bills. And I mean, some days I'm just like, man, I cannot get a break. And, I question any type of authority that are making rules that don't make sense. And whether that's not to be political by any means, but it's in any situation in my life, because I have neglected things in my life and I was overpaying for certain things, and now that I've taken control and I'm putting everything under a microscope, like, I'm very kicking ass at asking the questions to make sure that, like, my hard work is working in my favor and not in other people's favor and putting money in their pockets.
Ooh, that's a good one. And something that nobody's ever said before. It's so amazing. I love this question because it's so different with everyone. Questioning as women, I think so many times we just say, oh, I don't want to cause a stink. I don't want to say anything. It's okay. It's not fucking okay. Question, question,
Mm-hmm.
question. And if a man questions shit, they're like, oh, he's being inquisitive. If a woman questions stuff, they have an issue with this. Keep being that
Mm-hmm.
inquisitive woman. Keep showing up and asking the questions. It makes it, think about what that does. The people that asked big questions for us 50 years ago are shit we don't have to deal with anymore. And we want to
Mm-hmm.
do that for the people that are coming up
Mm-hmm.
behind us too. And it's really asking those
Absolutely.
questions that breaks all this shit apart. So thank you
Mm-hmm.
for being a question asker.
Thank you. Thank you.
I will put all of your contact info and stuff in the show notes, but if someone wants to connect with you, Alicia, what is the best way for them to find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Beauty by Alicia Guru or beautybyalicia.com or beautybyalicia.guru. And or you can email me at alnealskin@gmail.com. All of my contact information is also on my website. So anyone that is struggling with healing, suffering from betrayal, wanting to find a new path, questioning if they need to leave a certain situation, feel free to reach out. You're definitely not alone. I think some of the biggest people feel like they're burdening others. You're not. You're not.
No.
And one of the big scariest things, I have a family member who, committed suicide. Like, mental illness is a real thing. If you feel like there's nothing left for you, please reach out, because I can guarantee you there fucking is a lot more for you in this life, for sure.
Yes. Oh, thank you. That's such a beautiful offering. Thank you so much, Alicia. This has been a wonderful conversation. And until next time,
Thank
you're
you.
kicking
I appreciate you.